Hey, what's going on, everybody? In this video, we're going to be doing a book review of Pagans by James O'Donnell, and the subtitle is The End of Traditional Religion and the Rise of Christianity. And I picked up this book not too long ago just because when I saw it on Book Outlet, was that where I got it? I think so. I had never really read a book specifically on this topic. I've read several books on late antiquity or like the end of the Roman Empire, things like that, where this sort of topic of the fall of paganism, I guess, is covered, but it's not like the particular focus of that book. So I decided to pick this one up, and it was really weird. Let's just say that, I guess. It's broken into two parts, and the first part is entitled Religion Without a History, and the second part is The History of Paganism. Um, what was interesting is the first part is literally, he even admits, it's basically just going to be sort of like some sort of weird travelogue thing where he goes around to different sites or different practices or rituals that we know of from from the Roman classical pagan world, I guess you could say. And it's literally all over the place. Like he said, a religion without a history. There's no really rhyme or reason. It seems why certain chapters are in there. Like we go to Delphi and we go to like these huge like Roman sacrifices under Augustus and things of that nature. It's all over the place, but I actually enjoyed that part. Um, like it's very helter skelter. Like I said, there's not really any rhyme or reason why we're looking at certain things in focus and other things not in focus. Obviously, a lot of things are completely left out. Like one of the kind of disappointing things was the like really not much besides like Delphi. There really doesn't seem to be like any Greek things going on. He basically only covers the Greco-Roman sort of paganism that was going on during the Roman Empire and during like the late Republic. He doesn't really delve into other cultures such as like the Celts or anything like that, which I was kind of hoping he was going to go into like maybe some Germanic paganism or Celtic paganism as well. But it's really just the strict sort of syncretized Greco-Roman paganism that is described in this book. And I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense just because it's much narrower focus than basically covering pretty much every like every culture at the time. But the second half of the book, which is entitled "The History of Paganism," was just really boring. I don't know. I didn't find anything special about it, to be honest. I don't know. I don't know if it's because I've already learned most of the stuff from other places. It just seemed like a lot of semantics was sort of going on. I mean, I understand like certain things, like the actual like etymology of paganism and how like Christian writers used it to sort of create an other, basically with the country bumpkin pagans, which actually isn't true or entirely true, I guess. But there was a couple other things that we just sort of he was just sort of categorizing that I didn't think really needed to be, I don't know, separated quite that much. I guess he was making a big deal out of things that I don't think were probably as big a deal. For example, one thing that's like a big deal with like Christian theology, with the whole split between Catholicism and Arianism, during like the Council of Nicaea and everything, with the whole homoousios and homoiousios, basically, and which basically being like the same being or the other one being of a similar being, and that whole battle basically going on. I don't think the average person that wasn't basically a bishop in the council really understood that or actually cared about that. They probably didn't even know really what was going on too much at that point. So it just seemed like a lot of, like I said, little bit of semantics going on. And like I said, the whole history of the fall of the pagans and the rise of Christianity was just sort of, I don't know, it was just really boring. And we start at like basically like the generation before Constantine, like sort of during like the crisis of the third century of the Roman Empire. So you don't actually start with the beginning Christianity. It's basically, he covers basically paganism was sort of, his main thesis is basically paganism was sort of already on its way out. People just basically need an excuse to like do something else, essentially, because a lot of the sacrifices and a lot of the other things that were going on, even if they were still going on, some of them obviously were, a lot of them had already either been sort of swept under the rug, or they were completely changed, or they were just sort of defunct and no one really cared at all. And I don't know, it just, like I said, the whole history part was just kind of boring to me. Nothing really stood out. However, like I said, the first part is really interesting. It's sort of like a travelogue. You're just going all over the place looking at like really fine detail on very specific rituals or practices, which is interesting. Also, the author, James O'Donnell, has a really good command of the primary source material. So he has incorporates just tons of sources all over the Greco-Roman world, which is really cool. And he also uses good citations. He has the in-text citation in the narrative itself, and then he goes on and has, you know, a note at the end of the book, which is the right way to do it. I don't know why. Like I said, in some of my other books I've been reading, they don't put the in-text citation, and then I end up not reading the notes because I don't know they're there. But anyways, he does it the proper way, which is really good. His bibliography is not super big, though he does have a lot of like second materials if you want to keep looking into issues further in the like notes. So I think that's sort of why the bibliography is basically just looking into the primary source material. But because of that reason, I did like the book. Now, overall, I'm probably gonna give Pagans: The End of Traditional Religion and the Rise of Christianity 3.5 out of 5 stars, because the first half of the book was just kind of fun and interesting, even though it didn't really have too much of a rhyme or reason. He even admitted that up front, because there really wasn't too much of a rhyme or reason. There was no sort of canon of paganism. So that's partly why it's sort of all over the place. I really enjoyed that, actually, surprisingly. The second part, the actual history of the fall of paganism, was just kind of really just dry. I can't really say anything else about it. So overall, 3.5 stars out of 5 for Pagans by James O'Donnell. And always remember, read victoriously.